Hello, good evening, everyone. We'll just give it a couple of minutes before we get started, just waiting for a few more people to join. In the meantime, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I really appreciate that. All right, everyone, I think we can get started. We'll let more people join in as they come. So welcome, hi, everyone. My name is Gaurav Nakul. I am part of GoDaddy's go-to-market team, and I'm based in New Delhi, India. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We've got something really exciting planned for you today. This is a second part of our series of demos that we've been running for our website designer, developer, and agency friends. And we're glad that you've taken the time to join us today. So before we get started, I just wanted to share a couple of things, as we progress. During the session, if any point of time you have any questions, if you need to ask something, please feel free to drop those questions in the chat. We'll definitely have something, someone who's going to answer those questions. If due to some reason or because of lack of time, we are not able to answer them today, we will make sure to get back to you with answers to your questions. And before we get started, let me also introduce a few of our members from the GoDaddy team who are with me here today. So we have Uday Gupta, who's joined us, who's leading the product and engineering efforts on the GoDaddy Airo AI Builder. We also have colleagues from our go-to-market team, including Nada. We have Salina, who leads our international operations for GoDaddy. And we're grateful to have them here. Great, guys. So I hope all of you can see my screen. If that's a yes, can you just drop in maybe a yes, quick yes in the chat box? If you're ready, if you're hearing me good, we can get started. Okay, wonderful, guys. So what we're going to talk about today is redesign, refresh, and restore with ease, right? And before we get into the demo, I want to start with something that will sound very familiar to some of you, or actually, a lot of you, right, who are in the business of building sites for your clients or your customers. Think about the last 5 projects that you delivered. How many of those were brand new builds versus someone asking you to say, hey, can you refresh or rebuild or redesign or just upgrade an existing site? We've spoken to several agencies, professionals, and one thing that we've heard is that 6 to 7 out of 10 of such projects were either upgrades, refreshes, or rebuilds. Right. So there's a lot of opportunity around, websites that were made few years ago. People are looking to, add new content, get them a new look, add more pages, basically, get a new vibe to these websites, right? And this is not a coincidence. That's the market reality today. So today's session is built around that reality. How do you take that 60 to 70% of your workload and make it faster, more profitable, and honestly, a lot less painful, right? So we know there's a lot of pain when there's a lot of back and forth in upgrading designs, content, pages. And the whole idea is how can we help you get through a lot of that seamlessly and easily? But before we actually show you that fix, let me show you why this problem is bigger than what most of us realize or think it is. Now, let's walk through a typical client redesign, refresh sort of a scenario, and what it actually costs you today. And this is not just in terms of money, but in terms of time, capacity, and opportunity. So most upgrade requests or most redesign requests from clients, they will typically start with the client saying something like, hey, can you just refresh this site? Can you add some new colors, new layout, maybe a few new pages? And all that sounds very simple, right? But actually the reality is you can actually spend about 4 to 6 hours just gathering requirements. Add to that another 6 to 8 hours of wireframing, what the design or the structure will look like before you've even written a single line of code. So and by then you're probably already 2 days into the project. By the time you factor in, design mockups, developments, revisions, Q&A, you're roughly looking at anywhere between 40 to 80 hours of work. That's a full 2 weeks, and probably, sometimes even more depending on, how many people are working on that project. And here's the part, that hurts the most, right? A lot of us. What you've done is you've probably quoted a client a fixed price that, hey, this is what I'll charge you for this redesign or an upgrade. So those extra revision rounds, the back and forth, the scope creep, that we are all so anxious about, they are straight, they're coming out of your profits, your margin straight away. So as a result, what happens is you are operating only on a 32 to 40% profit on a project that's already consumed 2 full weeks of your capacity. And imagine, while you are heads down building this one single project or redesigning this project, how many new client inquiries came your way that you could not take or you had to turn away. This is the real hidden cost, that often gets ignored. And it's not just time, it's the opportunity cost of doing everything else, and basically not doing, it's basically the opportunity cost of everything else that you could not do, while you were working on redesign. So what if we said that there's a better way of doing this? And what if we said that you can actually create or do your next site upgrade within 3 hours and not 3 weeks? And this is where it gets really exciting. So if you look at the slide, everything on the left side of the slide is what traditional redesign or upgrade typically looks like today. Everything on the right is what Airo Builder makes possible. So for example, 2 to 4 weeks of project becomes 3 to 6 hours with same, and I would say actually even better quality of output, but just dramatically faster. 30 to 40% of profit margins jump to 70 to 80%. And this is not because you've started charging more to your customers, but simply because you're spending far less time to deliver better results. So think about this. Instead of 2 to 3 upgrades per month, now you can realistically scale your business to roughly to about 10 to 12 of these with the same team, same resources, but just a better and more smarter workflow. And one thing which is, I think, one of my favorite is instead, when we think about those painful manual rollbacks, when a client would ask for a change or they suddenly change their mind that, hey, this does not look nice, you can get one-click restore to any previous version through Airo Builder, right? So you know where you were, you wanted that version back, you just go back and click on that version, boom, it comes right in front of you. So, and in return, what you really get is a clean React code which you own, right? And which you can export. So this is not a platform that locks in. It's not like a locked in platform, right? It's your code, it's your project, because ultimately it's your client that you're servicing, right? So we want to keep that very transparent. We want to have you to have the ownership of the code. Now, in the next few minutes, this is exactly what we're going to show you how it works, right? So what we'll do is we'll work through an existing live site, feed it into Airo Builder, and show you how you can actually seamlessly redesign, refresh an existing site. And all this in a matter of minutes. Now, the important thing to note is from today's, and I would say the biggest takeaway is that when we use AI or Airo Builder or any such tool, the goal is not to replace your skills or your creativity. What it's doing is it's giving back the time so that you can focus on what you need to grow your agency or your freelance business. So with that, we'll go to the demo, but once we've done that, I'm certain a lot of you here would love to give Airo Builder a try. And we've got something, a special surprise for you to get started. We are giving away 1 month free of Airo Builder to our attendees here. All you need to do is type out your name and your email ID in the chat box, if you want to be one of those attendees, right? And we'll pick up your name, your email IDs, and we'll ensure that you have 1 month of Airo Builder free. So you can play with it, you can run with it, you can start building your real client sites on that. You can create new projects, you can redesign projects, like just get feel of, what Airo Builder is. And finally, I will urge all of you to join our Airo Builder WhatsApp community. It's a growing, thriving community, just to make sure you get the latest and greatest on what's happening on Airo Builder. There is the Airo Builder WhatsApp community channel. Here is the QR scanner. I will also take a picture of this and put it in our chat. So, you can go back to it, scan it, and start joining the channel. That's a little bit of context of what you can expect maybe in the next 20 to 30 minutes. I hope you will find it useful. I hope you'll start using Airo Builder to start working with your clients, for your clients, and create better experiences, not just for your clients, but also help your agency, your business grow and thrive through GoDaddy products. Right? Again, if you have any questions through the demo or throughout the session, please feel free to post those questions in the chat. We'll make sure to get back to you. With that, I am going to pass on the baton to my colleague Uday, who is going to help us walk through the demo. Over to you, Uday.
Thanks, Gaurav. Hey, all. So I'm essentially working on the team that's developing this software. So we're essentially going to look at it as an example where we have an existing site and we're going to try to rebuild it. I do have some examples because it takes a while for the rebuild to happen, but I wanted to show the different variation of how it essentially looks like. This is our starting point. We have a website which essentially I created for purpose of training people or doing one-to-one coaching for AI related skills. Let's say this is a pretty static looking site, might be good, clean, designed, but let's say your client doesn't like that, what it comes out to be, and they want it to be a different design. You can literally take the URL of the site and go to the Airo Builder and start with the rebuild saying, okay, I can copy that URL and specifically say whatever different mix you want to have. like make it darker, right? It's a pretty horrible prompt, but this is where, you would want to specify what kind of things you want. I'll just go with that for now, just so that we can look at the other examples in the meantime. What this is going to do is it's going to start crawling the site in the background. So as you can see that it has started analyzing the site that you are targeting. It'll take about a minute or two, or maybe more, depending on how complex the site is. We had about like 10 pages on that site. So it'll take, it'll crawl that, create the assets that it needs, and essentially proceed with creating at least the beginning of that. So how does it work, right? It essentially crawls the site. It captures the assets, which are exactly the same images, the content, and it tries to add some flavor of it. If you give some direction, it'll use that. Otherwise, it'll try to modernize it based on the current trends and patterns. And then on top of that, you can essentially do incremental build for a specific page. So for example, that same site, if you don't give any additional prompt, this is what the result would look like. It reused the images from the same site, added the flavor based on the context, and tried to modernize what it should generally be looking as a modern site. Now, there are different flavor of the prompt when you try to modernize a site. So you essentially want to specify things like use a bold dark theme, depending on what type of your target is or what the need is. You're essentially going to specify those additional requirements. And that's where the results vary. So by default, it'll generate somewhat better result than what the current site is. But then if you start specifying the specific directions, it'll try to do much more than that. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Let me know if you guys are having any issue watching or anything is not clear here. So if I have it specified that, let's make the dark theme a little bit more darker, the image organization is a little bit different. There's a little bit of animation pairing. Let's look at a few other examples for the same site. Here, I've essentially said like, make it a punchy headline, but you can see that this is a little bit different from the flavor that, what gets generated by default compared to the previous other pattern that we saw. Same for another pattern where we said that, hey, make it a high-end luxury brand using champagne gold. So it'll try to do a little bit of different flavor in all of that. This is again striking a creative portfolio, so it has a different feel to it. So all that resonates to people who are very much deep into like different design schemes, right, and themes. While you have an output generated, you can still ask for additional things like suggest different color scheme, and I'll think about it and give you a suggestion about what different color themes might be applicable on this scenario. And you can technically do those changes and select one of those themes, and it'll try to pick up that. And you maybe don't like the darker one, so let's go with lighter. Pick a lighter theme. So you can make those adjustments before it finally meets your expectation. There are a lot of other features where you could probably do edits and provide your manual updates without having to deal with the AI here, and all those changes will get saved. Yeah, another flavor for luxury, and then this is the one that we just submitted, and it's going on. It has created header, footer. Pretty soon it's going to have the midsection, and yeah. At a high level, this is what the variation I wanted to show as part of the demo that you can generate for any site. I mean, yeah, I'm limited by the amount of things that I can think of, but you can actually make it a lot more elaborate in terms of what changes you want, right? You may want different images to be used, or you may want to have like a completely different look and feel, maybe 90s theme or cartoonish, or maybe geared towards children or a specific type of audience, or maybe, my core businesses, like, for example, is in India or a geographical location. So all those contexts does play a role in terms of how the look and feel of the site would change. And you can create different variations and decide which one looks better depending on the need. Okay, now it comes down to like, let's say if I did change the theme, which I had in one of the examples. So if I did say that, okay, let's go with the lighter theme, it'll make that change and our site would look light, and maybe that's not the right color for it. So we'll just look at that very quickly. It's making changes in the header, should be done with the changes related to other pages, other sections on the page. All right, so it is, as you can see, real time as it's making the changes, we are able to see those changes appear. But still doing changes in the header. Okay, made changes to the footer, which we can't see until we move to the footer. All right, it updated the hero section. So hero section now looks lighter. So we'll just stick to that to see how it actually does in real time before moving to that other example that was under build. Most likely that one is complete by now. All right. Okay. Feature sections is also done. Now it should be looking at that other next section, which is currently still darker. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would not be staring at this. I would probably go and grab coffee and come back to look at this. And by the time I'm back, it should be done. So yeah, it's moving section by section, and there's only 2 sections left. Testimonial section done, and the FAQ section about to be done. All right, that's done and reflected. Looks like there's another section, which is call to action. So that should also get reflected. All right, I think this is pretty much what it should be. It will be doing. Okay, so now it suggests that, hey, do you want to try another color scheme or do you want to change the font? It's reloading the server because sometimes when you make changes, it could have the effect on the way the page looks and feels. So it did switch to the lighter theme. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's not good. So we do have a history feature where if I have just done this, I know that it's not looking good. I can switch back to the previous version. And this previous version, I can technically just see that, okay, this was previously, and this is the one that I have now without having to jump between 2 different sites. So you have the previous version stored here in this place. And maybe I don't like the light version, so I might just restore and switch to this version. And then during my conversation with the client, it usually is going to be very handy if I have 5 different versions just available in the history to be able to quickly switch within the same site. Or I could have different variation based on the different type of look and feel that I want to show to my client for their existing site. So this is the variation, how you do different look and feel for the same site, how you can essentially prompt your builder to have different look and feel. You can ask it to have different images. You can ask it to have different fonts, colors, schemes, even modify on your own if you think that a particular section you don't feel is good enough.
And I also like, Uday, that how the Airo Builder is also making its own recommendations, on certain things that you could do. So on the left-hand side, like, whether you want to change the font, you want to add another page, or just the look and feel, right? So there are recommendations which Airo Builder will make. And of course, it's also, one of the things is the back and forth that usually happens between you and the clients on, hey, how do we show my website? How do you get feedback? Now through Airo Builder, that is really simple. And maybe, Uday, we can just show them how to really share a preview of, what's being built. So you can share a preview link with your client. They can look at it, give you feedback real time, and pretty much everything can happen real time, right? With this, you don't need to kind of wait for feedback. So it saves a lot of back and forth between the client and, helping you kind of save time and manage things better.
That is true. You can technically share it, but the thing is with the preview is that it's a development server, so your whatever change that you're making here could technically reflect there. So if you have made a mistake here, that will also reflect to your customer or the client. So for that purpose, you may want to use publish as a functionality where if you publish this, you get like a dedicated production style URL for the development work that you've done. And you could technically keep doing the development and publish the right version when it's finished. So that's the publish functionality. But yeah, if you're doing an iteration where you want to show like pretty much real-time changes, you can technically share preview URL with your customers. It's as simple as like, just visiting preview, having this preview URL, share it to anyone else, and then they should be able to see the changes that you're making here. For example, if I do that change here, restore to this version. So I should essentially switch to the darker version, which is what the other side, if somebody else had this URL, would be able to see also. So it's a choice whether you want to do it through preview or you want to do it through publish. Everyone have their own way of operating. But this tool essentially allows you to operate in that flexible manner. I like the lighter one still. All right, with that, I think we have covered the part of rebuild and the way to do the restores. There is one additional feature that comes handy when there are things that you are aware in terms of the date and time. So we do have backups available for every site, essentially, daily backups. And for those, because, I've just created this, but generally, if you are using a site that has been around for a while, which I should have. In the meantime, let's look at what happened to the one that we gave. So we gave this, make it a little darker, and it did finish. It essentially captured 10 pages from that site. It captured the images and other assets that were there. It generated a prompt based on the instruction that you have given, where it would generate a deep navy, ocean blue, and some color scheme. And that essentially is then used for building or rebuilding the site. Yeah, so going back to that email example. Yeah, sometimes if you're using the apps and you have not visited those in last 7 days, they can take a while because we do hibernate sites if they're not active or not being used for 7 days. But yeah, it's not too long. Should be up now. The feature that I was referring to was backup, which appears something like this. Okay. I think I'm having some issue with my network because of me being on the VPN, but generally this should be pretty fast, where you can actually restore to previous version where you knew that I had a good version for a particular date. So these are the two capabilities for restoring. Generally, this is more of drastic thing where you made some changes or you asked somebody to make changes that were not like that overrode some of the changes that were not expected. So you essentially go on a hard rollback. Otherwise, generally, you should be good with the history of the commits of the application that you're working with.
Yeah. So let's see. We have a question from Pramod, who wants to know if there is a white label domain available for presenting this to clients. The idea is not to share the background workings, more like the front end preview for feedback.
Absolutely. Technically, you can have your own domains. Let me actually try to publish. So if you're not, so that's another reason why you may not want to share a preview link. And that's where the publishing helps, because here you could actually attach a domain and you could have your domain in a way that doesn't reveal the environment, the tool that you're using. And that makes it somewhat controllable from that aspect. Does that answer your question? Okay. So yeah, I might have like, a domain, a simple domain where I'm just gonna, attach it to that and share that as the URL to customer, so they won't know what's the background technology.
Yeah, thanks. And of course, if you have, it also gives you the opportunity to, if you want to buy a domain, right through the console. So that's already integrated. It makes it super easy for you to search for a domain, to buy a domain already. So yeah, by the way, since we last met, there are a few updates that have happened to Airo Builder. We now have updated plans that are available for you. So if you're an agency and if you're looking to build apps and websites for multiple clients, we now have our professional and ultimate plans, which basically give you more credits. It also allows you to publish more number of apps. So you definitely do want to check that out within Airo Builder on the landing page. I will put in the link for our Airo Builder landing page here. So you'll start seeing what are the new plans available.
All right. Any more questions? We're good.
Right. So once again, we do still want, I think Imran has his hand up. Just give me a second. Imran, are you able to, if you have a question, are you able to put it in the chat? Hey, Imran, can you be a little louder, please?
Just want to know in which language this support. Which language is supported?
Okay, if you're asking like which language the code is being written, is that so?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Node.js, React with Vite.
Okay, and इसके लिए hosting अलग.
So if you're purchasing, so question is like, do you have to purchase a hosting separately for this? Generally, if you're purchasing a plan, they have hosting included into it. But if you don't want hosting or just want to develop apps, you can just purchase credits also. So yes, the hosting plans are included in the pro tier and the ultimate tier and the starter tiers.
What is the bandwidth of the user to hit that domain? If
Sorry?
one website is live on that domain we created Airo Builder, then how much user can visit per second?
How many users can visit per second? I'll have to get that number. I don't have that on top of my head, but for a normal website, I don't think there's going to be any restriction as far as I know, but yeah, I don't have on top of my head if there's any specific number that would be restricted.
No, sir. Thank you.
We generally don't get into that situation with normal websites, right? Like if you have a website where if you start to market it, some people will start to browse it. We don't have such restriction or very stringent restriction where, okay, if you have like more than 10 visitor or 100 visitor per hour, we're going to start charging you. It's not like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking in terms of like millions. So only at that point it would be a question that whether the system can hold.
Because of most of the client is running the campaign on that page mostly.
Yeah, right.
That's
right.
why I'm asking about that.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a fair question. Like I said, I will get back to the community on the WhatsApp to submit the answers for that.
We do have one more question, and this is, I think, more around credits consumed. Is there a way to understand how many credits get consumed per action per project?
Yeah, so we do show the credits. Let me share the screen. I think if you didn't notice it so far, but if you're working and typing, you will not miss this circle. This essentially shows the credit usage. And if you are doing a query, you would be able to notice the credit usage. That's the current way. It doesn't mean that it will stay like that. Maybe there will be more fine-grained control, like you want to restrict projects to not spend more than certain credits and whatnot. That's something that we're already discussing as a feature in the future. But yeah, you have a visibility into the credit consumption that you're doing. So you could technically, do a particular query or instruction and observe how much credits are being consumed. If the question is like how much credit it can consume, so it depends on the complexity of the prompt. Every query could be from very simple to very complex, right? Like you could say that generate me, 100 pages. It would probably try to do that, but it will consume a lot of credits for that. But if you say just change me this title or replace this image, it might just cost you a single credit. So that complexity depends on the interaction that you're having with the AI, just like any general AI tool that you might have used, like ChatGPT or any other tools. Yeah.
Another interesting question: can we use other languages for prompts other than English?
Absolutely. There is no restriction on that. Yes.
I do see Pallav raised his hand. Pallav, if you're hearing us, could you maybe speak up here with your question? Looks like Pragnesh had a question.
I think people have their hand raised. Maybe is that something you are controlling?
Right. I think you are able to now speak if you have your questions ready.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was just checking on that. Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you so much for the wonderful session. I am new with Airo Builder. I'm going to try out in terms of how powerful the tool is, and I'm hoping it will give the good results on that. What I want to understand from your end is in terms of the kind of or what level of application, let's say, we can build, we can hope to build through this? Can it build simple softwares like, let's say, if I'm talking about let's say some OCR based builder, okay, can it create something like that?
Yeah, I mean, so I think it depends on the complexity, right? Like what I'll start with, like, what it has. So of course
Yeah.
it has the Node.js white React environment, right? Where the agent is able to code. But on top of that, it also has a ability to manage secrets in a standard manner so that you don't have to like type secrets. So you can technically have integration with other third-party applications,
Okay.
payment gateway into your application in a secure manner. The other part is that it has persistence, which is MySQL, full MySQL, not like API based or anything like that. You get like a full featured MySQL. So of course we have a framework. You can also see that it generates a schema if you have a need, whether you have CMS kind of a requirement. If you come down to like OCR capabilities, it's essentially image analysis, and that
Right.
image analysis is something only going to be limited by the type of tooling is available in Node.js as a tool. So technically, if you are already aware of the tool in Node, right, you can actually direct the agent to use that specific tool, and it will configure that for you.
Got it. Got it. And I, as you said, I think we can definitely use other APIs also along with it. Let's say if I want to Google's Vision API, if I want to use that I can use it that for this, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to explore it.
Yeah. I mean, technically, this is, something where you can even build chat agents. You can integrate with other AI technologies, vision, voice. So it depends. Like, its limitation is the imagination here, not the platform, I would say, because whatever is available in the Node environment and the type of integration that you want to build, it will try to do all that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I've also posted the link to our YouTube channel. So you'll find a lot of resources on the YouTube channel. We are constantly updating with more and more content on what you can build and how you can build. So, there's a lot of helpful content there. I do encourage you to, go and subscribe so you keep getting those updates and, new content every week. Anyone else who had a question? I apologize. I think there was some confusion around ability to put questions in chat. If someone has questions, please feel free to come off the mic and, you can ask them here.
Yeah, hi, I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, this is Manish Maiti from IT Mighty. So thank you so much for this session. Really, it is a very wonderful tool. Like previously, we have used Wix, and also there's a same kind of tool we have introduced in Hostinger as well. So the thing is, like, I just want to confirm that I have a particular website. My company website name is itmighty.com. Okay, so where I have integrated reseller API. Okay, with the it's all about of what it's called plugins. So I just want to understand, in Airo Builder, can we integrate the same thing in that way, like the domain search and also like the reseller plans? Can we integrate that things?
So is your question whether you can integrate a domain?
Reseller, no, reseller, the reseller plan, GoDaddy reseller, that can we integrate with this Airo?
So you're trying to do white label Airo Builder onto your site or your application.
No, I just want to tell you that there is a reseller plan is in GoDaddy, right?
Right.
With that, we integrate with our website. If you open my website, you can able to find in search bar. If we search any kind of domain, okay, it's give us multiple domains options, right?
The
It's
storefront, the
come
white
all
label
about of
storefront.
exactly storefront, exactly white label storefront. So can we make like that kind of site?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why it would not be able to do that.
No, because while developing in WordPress, we use the plugin, right? But I just want to confirm that in this, how we will like install the plugin.
So I'll tell you what, the site that I was actually using as an example to start with was actually a WordPress site. That's what got rebuilt. So when you're going to have a rebuild, it doesn't matter whether it's, from WordPress or .NET or PHP. It's essentially reading the content of the site as a user would. So it's essentially saving that and using that, not the code that it is written in. So that's essentially takes it away from that plugin architecture that WordPress has, or makes it independent of that.
That means the WordPress side only we can put it into this particular builder and it will be creating a particular site for us, a new one, right?
Yeah, so you're giving URL, not the code, right? So using the URL, it's browsing your code, just like how Google will index your pages, right? And
Yes.
using that information, it's building or rebuilding the new experience that you're looking to have.
And
Okay.
I would recommend, if you do that, please do share, what you build out of it. I mean, it'll be really exciting for us to see, what that version of storefront looks like. So
We are going to start working on this itself. Like we have already started working from last 1-2 months. But the thing is that I was waiting for this particular session. But the thing is like we have developed a lot of things. And for last 2-3 years, we are working with GoDaddy. We have developed multiple things. Even we have integrated Amadeus with the like WordPress. So I just want to understand that for travel segment, like of Make My Trip or like Go or trip.com, this kind of site, can you build up in this particular platform?
So it does an incremental build, right? So if you give it an example that, I want to build like Make My Trip, right? It wouldn't happen like in just one prompt, right? Because
Yes,
it may
there
be
will
able
be
to
multiple.
yeah, it'll be able to give you the landing page, but then technically as you trade, right, you will have to build a flight integration. You'll have to provide like what is the source of inventory for hotels. So technically, yes, it can build, but Make My Trip is not just the site. It's actually a lot more
That I
than that.
know. Just I'm
Yeah.
telling that at least
So
we can
complex.
build all about 2 to 3 services we can provide, right? We can integrate the API.
Yes, absolutely. So I just hesitate to say that it can replicate those kind of things, because people then like we try to avoid like cases where there could be conflict of ideas where you're essentially trying to replicate an IP of somebody.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the things much easier because
Absolutely.
things are much complicated, right? So that's why
Absolutely.
these AI tools are helping us for making things much easier. So that's why I'm just making clarity. Apart from that, one last question from my side: can we build e-commerce
Yes, you can.
by categories wise, right?
Absolutely. We do have people building that already.
And you'll see that in one of the videos that we've posted on YouTube, exactly, how we are building e-commerce sites. So yeah, like I said, I mean, you'll find a lot of useful content on the YouTube channel. So highly recommend, checking it out. It's very valuable. So I think we have one more
WhatsApp
question.
integration also included, right?
So
WhatsApp integration.
It depends. There are two types of integration for WhatsApp. One is business, another is you just give your link to your
No, business.
personal.
I'm talking about the automations.
So yeah, you would have to guide it. I mean, it won't like you have to. Yes, technically you can build that. Yes.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. I think we are past time, but I think we'll just take these last couple of questions here. So there's a question from Pramod who's asking, what happens to websites or apps made on the platform if the plan is not renewed by our client? Does their website or app continue to function, or does it become inaccessible? And the other one is, are they able to move this to a self-hosted server after building it?
Even I have a small question. Okay. Even I have a small question.
I'll just answer this quickly, and then we can ask your. So quickly, you can download the code. There is a functionality where we do allow to download the code. You can technically host it somewhere else, but the bigger problem is like all the integration and everything. We would rather prefer you to be able to keep it simple for yourself. But if there's a need, you do have the access to the code. Whether you can run that code, it depends, right? Like you would have to set up the Node.js environment, the database. All those things will come into the picture, which we already provide right out of the box.
Yeah, Vijay, you had a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'm a bit late. I'm sorry. Okay, this is Vijay Kumar Reddy from City Group for Bangalore. Okay, actually, Airo Builder, is there? I just want to know more details. Okay, this is a 23 years old company. I have it. I want to know more details. Is there any? Because it's not possible to ask you all the questions because I have many domains with you. GoDaddy, approximately I can say around 400 domains I have with you. Okay, but thing is actually different requirements I have it. Since AI is coming very hugely to the market. Okay, I just want to utilize it. Really, we don't know that we are definitely using it little bit, but not advancedly. Like I can able to, if you can able to provide me contact details or some tools or some YouTube, as you are telling, YouTube videos or something, definitely it will be useful. And since I am with GoDaddy past many years, okay, it will be more useful for the many people. I can ask.
Absolutely. Certainly. So we'll set up a separate call with you, Vijay. If you can just drop your name and email in the chat box, I'll ensure we have someone reach out to you and we'll walk you through everything that we have.
Please, please, please. Okay, I'm sending you right now. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome. So we are already way past time. Maybe we can do something. If you have questions, feel free to post these questions here. Or what you can also do is put your questions in the WhatsApp channel. Join the WhatsApp channel. Put your questions there. We'll ensure we answer all of your questions there. If there's something left, we'll follow up, with an email to answer all your questions. And hopefully, this was very useful to you. We would also want to hear back from you on your feedback, what you're building, how you're liking the product. So do watch out for a follow-up email that will have a summary of the session and also some links for you to follow. But again, thank you so much for your time, sharing your valuable time with us and your feedback and your questions. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, if you still are looking for trying Airo Builder, please drop your name and email in the chat window. We'll make sure you have that plan with you so you can start testing it and using it. With that, thank you so much. Have a wonderful, lovely weekend ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.